Despite getting some tough injury news at the beginning of the day, the Twins powered through with a 5-1 win over the Royals. The offense came alive late, the pitching was great, and the Twins are now 2-0 and looking for a sweep on Sunday. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And while you're doing that, make sure you ski-doodle on over to @AnswerDaveBrown and hit that follow button. Dave Brown is here. How's it going?
Hit that, Brandon. I'm doing great. The Twins played an exciting, fun little ball game and are 2-0 on the season, so that's a good way to start.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how the offense came alive late. We'll talk about how pitching was kind of the carrier of the day for both sides for the bulk of it. But we'll talk about how also the Twins get some difficult but not completely devastating news on Royce Lewis. But first, thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen. Every day we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, please feel free to give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, hit of the button, and all that good stuff. And also to make sure to check out Locked On Twins Postcasts. Now, that's a different show than this. It will show up in your feed, but we're making sure to let you know that Luke Inman and Sam Ekstrom and friends will be doing those as well. And I'll step in there from time to time and be involved as well. But again, if you're checking out the postcasts, check us out and vice versa. And it should be great. They're a nice supplement to what we do here. Dave, let's first talk about Royce Lewis. I know the Twins won 5-1, but just ever so briefly, I want to get to Lewis with a strained quad. Sounds like he's going to be off his feet for a month before the Twins evaluate him again. It's looking like it could certainly be a 60-day IL stint if the Twins need that roster spot.
Right. I can't foresee them doing that for procedural reasons at this time, just because they're going to wait and see how he heals. But he's going to take it very easy, like you said, for the next 30 days or so. I suppose the good news today was that there wasn't a tear to the point that it needed surgery that would have possibly put him out for the year. So it's going to be a while. It really locked up on him, but we'll see how they do without him, and hopefully he takes it easy and doesn't try and come back too soon. Derek Falvey's on the trip with the team, and he basically called Lewis a good listener when it comes to what the doctors say to do or the trainers say to do. Don't go overboard. But it is kind of looking like this is going to be maybe a couple months between just sitting around for a month and then, if everything goes well, ramping up and then getting back in the game. I mean, that's kind of the best case right now, I think, is about 60 days.
Well, we'll see how quickly he heals. Still a young man, of course, and he's had plenty of practice healing, and that's not a knock of any sort. He's just been snake bitten to this point in his big league career. And I saw he said, maybe I'm too electric for my body or something like that, which I don't think I've ever said that out loud, Dave Brown. I don't know about you.
Well, I don't know that it would be a good idea for you to say it out loud,
No.
maybe in the privacy of your own home. But Royce is he seems like a funny guy, and he's a good quote, and he definitely comes off as a positive thinker, and I don't think that is an act. I think it's also, maybe it is a little calculated in that there's so much negative that can happen in baseball just by the nature of the game. Making 7 outs out of 10 trips to the plate will still maybe get you on the all-star team. Just from that standpoint, almost the cliches of it's a game of failure. It is good if you can maintain it to be come off as a positive person, and that couldn't hurt when it comes to motivating yourself and staying high when there are lows like this. So he seems like a good egg, and hopefully he'll get through this sooner than we think.
That's not a joke about him being bald, is it?
No, it isn't.
It's not an Easter joke either.
There's all kinds of subconscious things going on in my brain. I know my kids were doing some Easter egg activities tonight at their aunt's house. They are excited that the Easter bunny is coming. They're happy to hunt for the eggs in the yard, looking for candy and money. And it's a real thing. It's and maybe that is subconsciously why I said egg.
It's certainly possible. Hey, Twins win 5-1, move to 2-0. It took a little bit of effort late, but the offense pushes a run across in the 8th, 4 in the 9th as things kind of go sideways on Mr. Will Smith. Welcome to Miami himself. Joe Ryan, I want to talk about him before we lean into our first and only break today. Was great. I thought, though, so he came out throwing darts. His velo obviously leveled off considerably after that. But I felt as though he had a pretty good grasp of like the fastball that he throws that has some carry. So it might like look like it's going to be down in the zone and just kind of stay true. I know he had one strikeout on one of those that I was especially impressed with, but I just felt like he was pretty much in command from beginning to end in this one. And while Seth Lugo pitched longer and didn't give up any runs, I still felt as though Joe Ryan was better overall.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in those terms, like who was better. I did think Lugo did some good things with a changeup and breaking ball today. His curveball kind of kept guys off balance. You could sort of reading between the lines of what the Twins, I know you asked about Joe Ryan, but what did the Twins hitters think of Lugo? And it's a guy who knows how to pitch. Maybe his stuff isn't as good as Ryan's, but he coming up as a reliever, comes into situations that are tight and has made a transition to starting rotation, and it's been going really well for him. So he's not an easy guy to face. The Twins didn't have a lot of opportunities against him, and it was looking like maybe they weren't going to have, they weren't going to cash in on any of the opportunities that they had, but until late. But you're right about Ryan. He was he did have a moment though where do you want to get into this before our break or after?
Sure. No, we got a couple minutes yet.
Yeah. He did give up a long foul ball to Salvador Perez that was kind of gargantuan. It seemed clearly foul, and it was a bit of a surprise that they were reviewing it. But he had a reaction that I think people who were watching the game noticed that was kind of funny, body language and maybe reading lips. I'm not sure. And it was, and he sort of replayed it after the game for the media when he said he was surprised that just by the happening of the pitch and where it went. And you want to play the clip?
Yeah, I thought he looked kind of like I invoke memories of Beaker from the Muppets. The face he made, it looked like you could kind of see a chin there, but not really. But you caught up with him, or you asked a very good question after the game. So we're going to play that here and give you some credit for a question well asked.
What's it like to watch Byron sort of take over plays sometimes with his speed and his
special? Yeah, I grew up as a runner and around a lot of runners, so just to watch him and how well he can move out there it's pretty fun to watch, especially when you come in here and you get the whole picture and just get to see the stadium from the fans' perspective and just watching him fly across there. The extra hits, it's so easy for him too. Just like how it looks easy, let's put it that way. He's just so fluid and just floats out there. So pretty special athlete to get to watch.
Did you see the internet seemed like your reaction to the foul ball?
I did not see. No, the MLB guys are pretty diligent here. We got a couple guys patrolling, no phones, so I'll have to check that one out.
It's good.
Oh God, yeah, I was like, but yeah, I was kind of confused. They challenged it too. I was like, that's clearly foul.
Yeah, it didn't.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Nice job.
I love that reaction. Clearly foul.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't know who Jim Neighbors is, and maybe our most of our audience doesn't either. But it was golly, it was kind of like that. Sure.
Well, hey, let's take a quick pause for our friends at FanDuel. When we come back, I want to marvel over Byron Buxton and the bullpen and a few other things. And also, too, a former Twin getting hit hard in his debut with another team. But again, a word from FanDuel. And if you're like me, your bracket is already busted, then you can say goodbye to your busted bracket by going to FanDuel. FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney as we're into the Elite Eight and coming up on the Final Four and all that fun stuff. Well, Houston lost to Duke, so I am officially ousted unless yeah, real shame. That actually happened just after we got off the air with our most recent program. So cried myself to sleep, but we're doing better today, one day at a time, 1 foot forward, all that good stuff. But again, if you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, or in this case, a 4 beating a 1 that tripped me up, you can go dancing on America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You're going to bet on North Carolina, who is blowing everybody out, or if you want to go for a closer game, that's your prerogative. But again, you can use that $200 if you win that first one on point spreads, money lines, and even who you think is going to win it all. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Dave, I think the Twins fans got to really ramp up their excitement and elation for Byron Buxton being as healthy as he's been in many, many moons. 2 doubles, hit by a pitch, 3 RBIs. I feel like he didn't have one of those like signature plays in the outfield, but again, just him being out there is such a special thing. And I think Joe Ryan's reaction to how they get to watch him that close, and especially as a pitcher where when he's doing the things he does, it helps you so much, again, defensively, or in this case, he was already out of the game when some of the stuff happened, but you're still on the same team. I just think that the Buxton factor cannot be overstated. I know we're only 2 games in. I don't want to draw any sweeping conclusions. We're going to probably still talk about what makes these teams different, but man, Buck back.
Well, I mean, we can be honest about it. The thing that happened to Lewis is the thing we're worried about happening to Buxton. I mean, that's what we're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great player and made himself a very good hitter later in his career. He was a great defensive player in the outfield. But Buxton, before the recent plica issues with his knee, was bruising at the plate. I mean, and today the play that Ryan was talking about before, I didn't really introduce the clip very well. I'm kind of a neophyte a little bit when it comes to introducing the video clips. It wasn't just about the thing that Joe Ryan gave up, but the first double that Buxton had, he hit it actually about 6 feet, and he bounced it right in front of home plate. And it went so high that it went over Michael Garcia's head at third base. He was playing in a little bit, kind of halfway. And I think it would have got a run in anyway if he was back. Mm-hmm. But you could see it in Buxton's eyes. As soon as he realized that Garcia wasn't going to catch the ball and it was going to go in kind of a no man's land in left field, he was like, I get to use my speed here. And he aggressively, just out of the chute, was hauling booty and breaking for second base. It was a great hustle double. And his slide at second was funny after that, he gave, the power toot or whatever this is.
The buck truck horn.
The buck truck horn. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That's probably not really what it's formally called, but
it's not. That's a good, you should be in marketing, man. But before he did the horn, if you want to watch the replay again of how he slides into second base. It's almost like he gives it a big bear hug. It's like come here, huge bag, you're mine.
I missed you, second base.
Yes. It was exhilarating to watch, and I'm somewhat dispassionate. So I understand where Joe Ryan's coming from. It was a great. It wasn't an infield double, but I mean, like I said, I think Statcast said it went about 6 feet on the first bounce, and it was like a Baltimore chop, that phrase, and it looked like the kind of hit you'd see in Kansas City 30 years ago when it was AstroTurf and
or the Metrodome
playing, or the Metrodome.
The Metrodome used to have those where you'd chop it off the plate and it would go 30 feet in the air, and if you're Christian Guzman, you could almost be on second base before they fielded it. But
Kirby had those sometimes. So
yeah, it wasn't. I'm not gonna say it was a strategy, but it was definitely something that was unique to the building or the venue surface.
I'm sure that they would do it on purpose sometimes. In a way, sort of like a swinging bunt of sorts. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely a real thing. So that was an exhilarating play. He also had a double later to pad the lead a little bit. That was a little more conventional, and that was more of a rope that he hit. But he's an MVP candidate when he's on the field. If he plays 140 games, he's going to be in that conversation.
Let's give some love to Christian Vazquez, who hit into a really frustrating double play.
Yes.
And then comes back with a big hit. And in fact, his wife, Gabby, is delightful to follow on Twitter. And she was just so excited. And I think I heard, too, someone saying on the broadcast that they're having their third kid, and every year that they've been pregnant, his team has won the World Series. I only kind of heard that. So some foreshadowing.
Maybe look into that somewhere along the lines officially.
I'll ask the tough questions about that one. But
it was a difficult. He wasn't the only one, but the Twins were having trouble executing that last hit to get some runners in. And we want to give credit to the Royals pitchers. The Royals, until the last couple innings with Smith and MacArthur especially, the Royals pitched a very good game too. So I don't know who's chicken and egg there, but the Twins were having trouble getting the big hit.
Yep.
And Vazquez was among them, hitting into a double play. So he was bummed about that, and Buxton said he was bummed about it, and but he felt good that his mood could change after, and he got the big hit, one of the big hits Vazquez did, but the defensive play, getting Witt to steal when everybody knows he's going to go, and he's literally, according to Statcast, one of the fastest players in the league. Buxton was joking that after one of Buxton's doubles, Witt stopped him at second base, and he said, "Hey, Byron, you got here real fast." And Buxton was like, "Hey, brother, not any faster than you on yours." So Bobby Witt is definitely part of the club as far as the Twins are concerned. They respect his game a lot. So for Vazquez to throw him out, amazing tag as well from Correa, who is kind of like an artist out there on the infield. Just really quick, not a lot of wasted motion. That's for them, that's as exhilarating as anything they do on offense. And you could see the reaction from Correa getting excited there. It was, nobody said it was like a playoff game out there, and I don't want to overstate things, but it was a little kind of like a playoff game. It was, there was lots of tension and kind of concern. The Twins are going to get a hit here, and the Royals are kind of clawing at them. And I think they're going after the Twins as the defending the reigning champs in the AL Central. It was there's a lot of good stuff going on in this game. A lot of good competitive nature type stuff. It was fun. The Twins are 2-0.
There's something so aesthetically pleasing of the pop from the catcher to the infielder and the motion or lack thereof to put the tag on. It wasn't like Javi Baez at his peak with the Cubs where it was incredible. But man, that Correa one, you'll give a lot of love to the pitcher for getting the ball to the plate quickly, and you'll give a lot of love for the throw, but the tag can sometimes be easy to understate. But just an incredible job by Correa. Correa goes 0 for 5 in the game, but is blistering the baseball. I didn't look up exit velocities. I don't have numbers, but I feel like even still 0 for 5, the swings that he took, he had a couple that, different launch angles, different degrees or whatever, You're talking extra base hits, home runs. It's exciting to think about Carlos Correa healthy.
Yes. And, I think that's something that, he can, I talked to him after the game too about what it's like to see Buxton doing stuff like this in sort of a kind of like how with Joe Ryan. And he's like, I can relate to a lot any professional athlete can, but he's particularly excited about Buxton because they sort of, they're brothers in injuries kind of the last couple of years. And it's great when you realize that, you still got it. And, you work hard to come back and rehab and get healthy. And then you add that to your baseball talent when you're healthy and you don't have to worry about your ankles and whatever else. And it's kind of a relief and a joy and a kind of a renewing feeling for guys like that they still got it and they can still make great plays.
I want to focus on something that I noticed during the game, and I actually tweeted about it, so I'll read that tweet off because I think it's a good setup to it. But it has to do with the strategy of how Rocco deployed relievers in this one. And one big point of contention with Twins fans has been his substitutions, his, basically everything he does that flies in the face of how, to a lesser extent, Paul Molitor, but definitely how Ron Gardenhire did things.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it was one thing I want to talk about. I said on my tweet was, this game is why you use your best reliever against the toughest part of the order rather than waiting to use him in the ninth, no matter what. So Griffin Jax, who is the de facto closer, I mean, he's the 1A to Brock Stewart's 1B. So it's not the perfect illustration of what I'm about to talk about, but Jax, who I think is, like I said, slightly more of a leg up, got to face 1, 2, and 3. He was on the mound when Bobby Witt was thrown out stealing. And if I'm not mistaken, that was on a 97-mile-per-hour fastball. So again, it certainly helps that the ball gets in there that quick. But if you're quick to home, that's a good thing too. But he got Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino. If you wait till the ninth, instead, you're facing Salvador Perez, still obviously a formidable opponent, MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe, and Garrett Hampson. Now, again, that's not to besmirch that part of the order, because, again, Salvador Perez is as dangerous as anybody in that lineup when standing at home plate. But if Joan Duran was healthy, there's a very real chance he would have thrown the 8th and someone else the 9th. Maybe not to this extent, because Rocco did at times lean on Duran as more of a traditional closer type. But I want to highlight that not only did Jax protect the smaller lead, but he prolonged the time for the offense to click so that you could be up by 4 runs in the 9th inning and use a lesser reliever. Now, again, not calling Stewart a lesser reliever necessarily, but let's say it was Jax and then they were up by, like, let's say 5 or 6, and one of the other guys from higher, Cole Sands, comes into the game.
Yeah.
Again, like that, if you pitch someone else in the 8th and save your guy for the 9th, you might get to the 9th and either you're down or you're up big, and then you haven't used that guy in a good situation. A lot of these decisions, fans have the benefit of hindsight. Now, I know I'm really belaboring the point, but this is one of those games where you won't trigger that, hey, this worked, because you're not processing anything other than they scored runs late. But the game within the game, managing your bullpen this way makes a ton of sense to me.
It does, and I think more people are understanding that, and they're getting to, sometimes you sort of get caught in an uptight way of thinking about how maybe you grew up watching the game, where you save the closer for the end, and of course, even about that, if you're even an older head, you remember people like Gossage and Fingers coming in the 8th inning or the 7th inning and pitching the last 3 innings of the game. All those leverage situations. If you go back to that, if you think old enough, you're going to remember that that's how baseball was thinking about leverage in those times. I mean, that's why we have closers in the first place. these are not necessarily new concepts. Maybe there are adjustments in how the pitchers are deployed, but it's not really that different than before. And that's a good that's an interesting follow-up question. Maybe they can ask Rocco tomorrow. If Duran, who everyone expected to be the Twins guy at the end of the game, would you have used him in the 8th inning instead of and waiting to use him in the 9th? I think the answer is probably yes. I think so. There is a comfort level with some guys, with some pitchers who they just prefer to go in at a certain time and knowing about it, and just because that's routine and that's what they're used to. But I think in the future, things are going to be a little different. I think there'll come a time when the 9th inning won't be a thing anymore, like an ego trip, where it'll be all about leverage and getting the meat of the order in the 8th inning, if that's what you need to do. And then people won't have these complaints anymore. It's going to take some time, though.
Well, and wasn't that kind of Josh Hader's thing? Was like, I'm going to pitch the 9th because that's how guys get paid still to this day, with arbitration being whatever.
That's not a bad. He's not the only person ever to bring up that point. It's not.
Yeah.
But I also think those kinds of conversations in arbitration can be manipulated. I don't mean like in a bad way, but change. The lawyers can talk themselves into these arbiters and into anything. So I don't know how much longer that's going to be an excuse either.
So, well, that was what I would say is a good decision. There was one that puzzled me. I won't say it was good, or definitely not good. I won't say it was bad. But Austin Martin comes in. He pinch runs for Matt Wallner. Not really sure what the speed differential is there, but I trust that they do, which is that number one alone for a lot of fans is a sticking point. Like, they don't know anything. Oh, maybe Wallner's foot is bothering him. We don't know. There's so many things we don't know game within the game. But he stays in. But then with a big spot coming up, they pinch hit Manuel Margot for him. Margot's better against lefties, but it's a big spot. So this is how I laid it out on Twitter. I said Margot is coming in for defensive reasons anyway. Is it really fair to have Austin Martin take his first big league plate appearance in a spot like that? But with that said, why have him on the roster if you're not going to let him hit there? But with that said, even if you don't let him hit there, is Margot really a better matchup? So I don't have a strong opinion. I'm just kind of talking through it. Where do you stand on this? Because there's a million moving parts. I don't think there's one right or wrong answer. But
is I wonder if the mistake is Rocco not putting Margot into run instead. I know Martin's probably faster, but and it seemed like speed with Willie was a reason they wanted to put him in the outfield instead of Margot. But you'd think Margot would be able to. Margot does not run like he used to. That's true. Just looking at his stolen base totals and his sprint speed numbers and all that stuff. But still, it would be nice if that was a part of his game, that they could put him in a pinch running situation so you don't waste Martin. Honestly, Brandon, I thought about asking Rocco about that, but it didn't come up in the post-game meeting. That doesn't mean it's not a valid question, a good question. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's certainly possible. I want to switch gears for just a split second. We'll spend a couple minutes on Ober and Singer, but Kenta Maeda getting hit hard against the White Sox of all teams. It was kind of that GIF or that image that's sickos, and it's somebody watching something through a window, kind of laughing at it, like kind of Schadenfreude or whatever. He gets lit up by the White Sox. Mike Soroka doesn't pitch all that great either.
Did you say Mike Soroka? It sounded like you said Mike Soroka.
Well, so okay, Mike Soroka. Then there's Mike Soroka.
It's Soroka. You don't. They don't have to sound that much alike.
And then in this draft this year, there's an Sirota Mike. So it's like one of those Twitter things where it changes a letter each time or whatever until you go to a completely different person. But anyway, Kenta gets hit hard. White Sox still lose. I feel like Twins fans win both ways.
Yeah, I suppose.
Who cares? It's the second game of the year, but
no, I know. I didn't see how Maeda was doing. I am I was surprised when the White Sox hit because that's not something they do well.
Well, so
I agree with that.
He gave up 3 homers, an absolute monster bomb to Luis Roberts, like 449, a homer to Braden Shoemake for his first big league hit, and then another one where Robert just absolutely unloaded. It was just not a good day. He almost allowed the cycle in that inning because Yoan Moncada tripled, and then he gave up the home run. So not a good game for him. I just wanted to throw that out there. Twins fans, keep an eye on that because maybe the Twins were right to let him go. We'll see. Tony Disco also had flexor tendon surgery. He's out for the year. Probably will never throw a pitch for the Twins. And coming up, Bailey Ober, Brady Singer in less than a minute. Mike, what am I talking about? Dave.
You're talking on the mic.
Yeah, that's right. I was talking to the microphone. What are you expecting with this one?
Uh-oh.
I
haven't, Brandon, can I be honest? I haven't thought about Sunday's game, like even for a second.
No, I get it. I want to see if Brady Singer, who didn't he add like a cut fastball, or he added something to his repertoire. There's obviously talent there. I want to see what he can do. I don't want him to win, but I want to see what he can do.
He didn't have a great spring, and I didn't look up the numbers, but it didn't seem like it was great while it was going on. It seemed like, he still kind of lost a little bit. We'll see if the Royals can get him going. I don't think he's in a spot where he was at the beginning of last year when he looked good. So, I like the tall. I like the over, Bailey Ober, the over.
Yeah, you still gotta trade him to me in our fantasy league. So we'll talk about that.
We'll make me an offer
that you can't refuse. Hey, here's an offer that you can't refuse. Our show is over for this edition of Locked On Twins. He's Dave Brown. Follow him on Twitter at @AnswerDaveBrown. Unfollow me in the process. But thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Happy Easter!